Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm trying out these new pencils I got. It's a Chinese brand called Phoenixcolor. They come in these beautiful boxes where they've separated them by color sets. And this one is blacks and whites and greys and kind of just like all the extras. Then there's all the greens, and there's some beautiful shades of green there. All the reds and pinks, and they are lovely. And yellows and oranges. Absolutely exquisite. The designs are so pretty on them as well. And these are all the blues and a few purples. Each one has these like unique carvings that are different on every pencil, and yeah, throughout all the different boxes. The set is absolutely stunning. They are oil-based pencils, and as far as I'm aware, and I've tried swatching a few. They go down beautifully. I'm gonna swatch them properly again, but for now I kind of have an idea of what I want to draw. And thinking about drawing a flower with water droplets. So I've been trying to study water droplets and just how best to paint them, and I thought this would be a good use of, you know, the new pencils and trying them out. I'm not yet sure if this is the best paper to use them on, because this is my Moleskine watercolor sketchbook, so this paper has a little bit of tooth to it, like some visible grain. It's not like a really rough watercolor paper, but there is some tooth, which for most pencils is kind of, I mean, having some tooth to the paper is a good thing, and it's a quality kind of thick paper, so I'm hoping that they work well. The way I'm drawing this flower is basically going from rough to clean. So I placed a circle to kind of show the rough area that the flower is going to take up. Then rough little outlines for where the petals are going to be. Then going in and kind of changing the shape so one is slightly different from the other, because nothing in nature is ever perfect. And then going around and erasing all the extra little fine pencil lines that I don't need, because I want a crisp outline. Now I'm placing all the little circles for where the droplets are going to be, because I want this flower to have loads of water droplets. I like a challenge. It's having just one somewhere just isn't good enough. This has to have loads. You've seen those pictures where flowers just got loads of water droplets, and I don't want them to just look like circles on a flower. They have to eventually look like water droplets. I want this flower to be blue, so I'm going to be trying out all the different blues I have here. And these pencils are very creamy, very firm, and which is normal for oil-based pencils to have firm leads. And yeah, they blend. I can layer them quite well. They're really nice. The white doesn't seem to do much, but I'm probably not going to need it. I think I might use like a white gel pen of some sort at the end for any little white highlight. And the idea is to have this one flower in focus, and possibly just some out of focus kind of flowers in the background as well. Now when I look at photos of water droplets, the first thing I see that strikes me is that each one has a shadow side, like it drops shadow to one side of the droplet, which is what makes it kind of, I'm sorry about the loss of focus here, by the way. This will be back to normal in a sec. There it is. Yeah, so each droplet drops a shadow, casts a shadow onto the flower, onto the surface that it's on. And that's what essentially makes it look kind of three-dimensional. And then in contrast to that shadow, there is the lightest, the most kind of sparkling area of the water bubble. So the lightest area touches the shadow and then gets darker again to the opposite side of the droplet. So that's what I'm trying to mimic here, and they won't immediately look like perfect water droplets because it requires kind of a lot of contrast and shading in from the rest of the leaf. So I'm giving it a basic background, which I'm going to add more shadows to later, but I just want to be able to see the first few droplets in contrast to the color of the flower. Because I have so many water droplets to draw, I figured that I can go around the edge of each water droplet, and they're all different sizes, but I can use the darkest pencil to draw a circle around each droplet and then color in on the one half of the bubble on the outer edge where the shadow drops, and then start with that darker color on the inside of the water droplet from the opposite side, and then get lighter and lighter as it gets to the highlight of it. So this allows me to kind of place them where they are, and then oh, hello kitty, he loves to watch me draw. And yeah, and then fill in the background, and then I'll be able to see where I need to add more contrast. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be adding the highlights at the end, and I'm not actually leaving any white of the paper inside the bubble, but I am trying to keep the side closest to the shadow as light as possible, so I don't have to work too hard to add the highlights later. But I want the whole bubble to have the hint of blue. I'm not leaving any white of the paper for the highlight. Now I've got a few more of these water droplets to add, so I'm just going to stop talking and let you watch for a minute. Now, while I finish off these water droplets, I wanted to talk a little bit about these pencils. They are actually really lovely to use, they go down really well, and I'm really happy I got them. They're not just pretty to look at, they actually are really nice. I'd never heard of this brand before. I came across it completely by accident. I was watching a product review by the Art Gear Guide, and he does incredibly detailed reviews. I'll actually link his video in the description, because I don't think there's anyone on YouTube that does product reviews quite as well as this guy. He really goes into all sorts of depths. I mean, he measures the cores, everything. It's really, really good. So big thank you to Art Gear Guide for introducing me to these. I had to just go out and get them. And when I say go out and get them, they aren't actually sold anywhere near me. In fact, I had trouble finding them anywhere on the internet. They don't sell them on Amazon or anywhere that I could find. So I had to take a chance and order them directly from China on AliExpress, which I'd never used before, but I'm happy to say they arrived quite quickly, brand new, really well packaged, perfectly intact, and yeah, just really happy I got them. I mean, as far as appearances, they are probably the most beautiful pencils I'd ever laid eyes on. They are stunning to look at. But I'm happy to say that they actually are really lovely pencils as well. I mean, they're really nice to use, they're very highly pigmented, they layer well, which is the first thing you want from pencils. And even though this paper isn't specifically for pencils, as you can see, they actually they use the tooth of the paper quite well. I'm not seeing too much kind of white coming through, and yeah, they're lovely. Now I'm just going around and adding some depth of color to the petals and leaving some streaks of highlights as I go, because they seem to have this like little white streak that runs through the center of the petal, and almost like the crease that's a little bit lighter than the rest. Also, some of the edges catch the light a little bit more, so they're lighter than the centers. And yeah, so I'm just kind of deepening the color as I go because I want it to be more strikingly blue. At the same time, I want to make sure I don't overwork that color, because I don't want the blue of the flower at any point to be darker than the shadows of the water droplets, because that's what makes them stand out. Now this central portion of the flower is looking a little bit crisp, so I'm just adding a few fuzzy lines to cut into it so it doesn't look quite as distinct. And I mentioned earlier I want to have some kind of blurred out kind of flowers in the background, so don't want to see any detail, just kind of hint of color that indicates that there is another flower somewhere in the background that you can't quite make out. And the rest of the background is a few different shades of green for what is possibly the greenery, the leaves, or whatever the flower's growing on. But again, it's out of focus, and I'm using a few different greens, mixing it up because again, I'm not putting details in, so I just want it to be like a hint of green. And I'm adding a black pencil in places just because I want the flower in the front to stand out, so just kind of deepening the background color, pushing it towards the back. Now on this background portion I am seeing more tooth of the paper that I don't quite like, so I'm just gonna blend it out a little bit. I'm just using a basic tissue just to blend the color out with my finger and giving slightly crisper outlines to the flower to bring it forward and make it more in focus. Now I'm just adding those highlights that I left to the end with a white jelly roll pen, just on the edge of each water droplet, just a hint of highlight and an extra dot on the side on some of the bubbles. It makes a lot of difference, and I'm feeling like I'm really not happy with this background. It's not at all what I had in mind, so I'm just kind of trying to blur it out some more. I want to darken it some more, maybe just push it further into the background. I really don't want to see the flower, just kind of, like I said, like a hint of a shape of a flower, so your eye can barely make out that there is another flower shape somewhere back there. Just adding a few shadows around the main flower so that the contrast kind of pushes it further into the foreground, and this one main flower is the point of this drawing, not the background. Anyway, there it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more random art. Thanks, see you soon!